Welcome to Milspouse Matters, the podcast dedicated to encouraging military spouses. I'm your host, Jen McDonald, and I was a military spouse for 30 years until my husband retired. We lived all around the world, raised 4 kids, and dealt with all the challenges and adventures of military life, just like you. Over the years, I came to believe that we military spouses are only stronger together. So whether you're a new or more seasoned spouse, whatever life is throwing your way, let's talk about it. Hey friends, I just wanted to mention a couple of things before we get into today's interview. First off, my second book, Milspouse Matters, Sharing Strength Through Our Stories, which is being published by W Brand Publishing, is coming out on October 10th. So depending on when you listen to this, it will either be about to come out or have just come out. So I will be sharing a link in the show notes. We are doing pre-orders. If you're listening to this before the publication date, you can pre-order it on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kindle, and that really helps with getting the book more visible and helping it start to rank so more people can find it. So that would be great if you're wanting to read it, to do a pre-order or to order it as soon as it comes out. And it is a book of stories of myself and my own family, as well as military spouses across the generations. I interviewed widows from the Air Force Enlisted Village who are from the Korean War and Vietnam War eras, along with military spouses that I interviewed for this podcast. And so it's put all together, and I hope that it will bring you some courage, confidence as you face your own military life and find the strength within yourself that you're encouraged by all these other amazing spouses' stories. So be looking for that. On this episode, I am talking to Susan Miller from Just Moved Ministry. And I did want to give one little disclaimer. Normally, I am very inclusive and always say military spouses when I'm talking about any kind of resource. We do say wives this time because her ministry is geared towards women. So I just wanted to mention that so that no one's offended. It is an amazing ministry, and it is great for military women, military spouses, anybody who is just relocated. You can connect with Just Moved Ministry and as well as her book, After the Boxes Are Unpacked. I hope you enjoy this interview with Susan, and let's get right to it. Hey friends, since I was diagnosed with celiac disease last year, I am always looking for delicious gluten-free snacks. Today's ad is from Unpacked Nut and Seed Bars. They have so many delicious flavors. My favorite is dark chocolate pretzel. They have 1 gram of sugar. They are low carb and keto friendly, plant-based, non-GMO verified, and of course, delicious. You can use the promo code SAVE10MP for 10% off all Unpacked Nut and Seed Bars on Amazon only. And this deal ends on December 31st. Visit the link in the show notes to find out more and order your own delicious Unpacked Nut and Seed Bars. So, hey everybody, today I am talking to Susan Miller from Just Moved Ministry. In 1995, Susan launched Just Moved Ministry out of the desire to offer the encouragement and hope of Jesus Christ to women uprooted by a move. Thousands of women around the world have contacted Just Moved Ministry for personal encouragement, helpful resources, inspiration, prayer support, an online community, and to find the location of an After the Boxes Are Unpacked study group. You can connect with Just Moved Ministry at justmoved.org and on Facebook and Instagram as Just Moved Ministry. Now, stay tuned through our talk so you can hear about the giveaway that Susan is offering to listeners. So welcome, Susan. I'm so glad we finally connected.
Oh, me too, Jen. It seems like we've known each other for years, and yet we just haven't connected face to face.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am so excited to have you here and to hear more about your ministry and your work with women. So for starters, could you tell us a little bit of background about yourself and how you came to start Just Moved?
Well, Just Moved is what I did. I moved 14 times. And, that kind of sets the stage. I felt like that, the curtain was up, the stage was set, and nobody gave me a script. I just kind of moved from place to place. My dad was career Air Force. My husband was in the Air Force as a medic during the during the time they were shipping back so many soldiers. He was really helped in that area of medicine. And then my brother was in the service. Hey, I'm a military brat for sure. And then my husband went into corporate, but we moved. I thought, here I'm getting away from military, and now we're corporate, and we still moved. So all that to say, we moved 14 times. I had a passion to reach out to other women who were going through difficult times in that transition.
It is rough. And I remember our first move, I was miserable. And I wish this had been around then, because I was just lost. You know, I'd grown up in the same place my whole life, and we've since moved 13 times. So I totally get that. But I just think about what an impact something like this would have had on me. So can you share a couple of stories about how Just Moved has reached military spouses, and, you know, some information about that? That would be fun to hear, I think.
Well, the stories are unending, because it's like our ministry taps in to the emotions that a military spouse is feeling, any military woman is going through. And one of my favorite stories is I get a lot of emails, a lot of texts, a lot of messages. And this woman said, this is our 8th move, and we've moved twice in the last 2 years. And she said, I thought I didn't need Just Move Ministry. Somebody told me about it. I didn't need it. And she said, and then I read your book and I fell apart. It was like somebody validated my feelings. And she said, you know, I began to realize I wasn't alone, that going through the grief of a move is normal. And I think, you know, and she said, I'm so grateful for your ministry, because I wish I'd had it every time we moved, but that it really tapped in and helped me realize I was not alone. Because I think a lot of times when you PCS, you feel like you're so alone. And, you know, it helps to know you're not alone. And that's what so many women say is, I feel validated. I feel like someone understands.
Well, what would you say to that spouse who's just moved and doesn't know anybody yet?
Well, I would say, do not isolate yourself. You know, get up out of that bed in the morning and make it up, girl. Make up your bed, because that says, hey, I've done something for the day. And then, you know, just everything that comes down the pipe that you're invited to, or that you can volunteer for. In other words, get involved. Get involved. Do not isolate yourself. I always say, join up and join in. And the best venue to me, and I've traveled all over the world with PWCs, and is a PWC on your military installation.
I did love those.
That's your connection. That's your community. And so, you know, join up and join in. Don't think I'm alone. I'm not going to go outside. Go outside and meet someone, walking the dog or walking the babies.
And it can be hard to be that person that's walking in somewhere new and you feel like that awkwardness, that you are the only one feeling that way. And I always found that if you kind of stood at the edge and scanned, you're going to lock eyes with somebody that's most likely in the same position you are, because it's so intimidating to come in new.
Well, it really is. And that's what's unique about our study after the boxes are unpacked. And I always think, hey, this is not promotion for the ministry, but I'm just telling it like it is. You can walk into an after the boxes are unpacked study and everybody's new.
Right.
So you're on the same level, and you're going through the same thing, and you can cry together and laugh together. So but do join a PWC, girls. If you've got one at your installation, run, don't walk.
And you also have a podcast called Hope for the Uprooted. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. I try to touch on all the subjects, feelings, emotions that women who are uprooted, which a PCS uproots you, for women who are uprooted by a move, all the things that they go through. And I interview people that can help in that regard with children and marriage and so forth. So yeah, it is just, it's another leg of our ministry for outreach to help women who are uprooted. Jen, with any change comes transition, and with any transition comes loss, and with loss comes grief. And I think a lot of times, you just do the next thing, you pack your bags, you move, you go wherever your husband's going. But let me tell you, God will not take you anywhere that he doesn't have a place for you. You just need to be patient and find it.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you go somewhere and you go, I am still not sure why you brought me here.
Exactly. And sometimes you want to wring his neck, and sometimes you want to dye his uniform pink. You just want to rebel, and you say, enough of this. But just, be patient, because there's a lot of women around you that feel just like you do.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Well, and I think as military families, that is the norm. You're constantly relocating, you're constantly picking up, to the point where it almost can feel like you feel guilty for even having a problem with it. But like the person you said that moved twice in 2 years, that's not uncommon. I know for us, we moved 6 times in 6 years. And by the end of it, I was like, blah, 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 like, what's my address? I don't even know anymore. Yeah. So, when you're in that scenario, how do you advise people to take care of themselves and to find connection and do all those things, make yourself a priority?
I'm so glad you asked me that. I need to say one sentence that I want you girls to grab. Self-care is not selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Please know that. I'm not talking about overindulging, but I'm talking about taking care of yourself, so then you will be better able to take care of your family. And self-care, it's pretty basic. Sometimes you just need to pull away and go for a long walk. You need to remember to eat healthy. Oh my gosh. And I would say, and don't forget to take your vitamins, but, lose yourself in a good book. I mean, these are simple things. Self-care can be turning off technology for a day. Don't check your phone. Don't check your emails. Just walk away from it. I have to do that. That's my self-care mode. But, be who you are. You are wonderful. You are unique. Don't compare. I think comparing and envy is such a downfall. But, just seize the day. When you meet someone, ask them a question. Just have that downtime. Buy a pretty fingernail polish and paint your nails. Eat a crazy mixture of an ice cream cone, whatever it takes for you to have self-care and to take care of yourself. It's huge.
And it's so important. It can be so easy to just put that on the back burner with all the craziness and busyness of a PCS move, or that settling in after where, the spouse has gone to work. They kind of have a built-in network. And if you have kids, they're like plugged into sports and school. And a lot of spouses will just find themselves, okay, I'm not even sure what to do next, because I have to restart my whole life.
Yeah. And you need to get settled, get your home settled wherever it is, if it's on post housing, if it's off post. You need to settle in your home. And that speaks volumes to your family, just to make it a place of comfort and encouragement and welcoming. And you'll feel better if you settle in your home. And then ask yourself, what's it going to take for me to come full circle? And sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's just being grateful for what you do have. You just have to kind of pull yourself back and say, okay, breathe deep. I didn't want to move here. I'm not happy here, but I'm telling you, put on those stilettos, stand up straight, walk forward, and take it on, baby, because you can do it.
I
You
love
can
that.
do it.
Well, and I like what you said too about join in. So when we were at one of the bases, we were in temporary lodging for several months, it ended up being. And we went to a newcomers briefing that they offer. And a lot of times, it's usually not optional for the service member, but the family can yes or no go. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll go. And I ended up meeting our next door neighbors. Like we met and we were just kind of comparing notes, and we'd been assigned housing. We were waiting on, and same for them. And I said, oh yeah, where are you going to be living? And it turned out she was going to be right next door to me. So it was so fun because then our kids made friends, and it was just not something I could foresee. And it doesn't always work out like that, but you don't know if you don't get out there. If you just become a hermit, which I think is sort of a natural tendency. If you're an introvert or if you're tired of being new, it can be easier to just stay cooped up versus, okay, I'm going to try a few things.
It is. It is hard to make that first step.
Mm-hmm.
But, you have to realize, first of all, you're not weird and you're not crazy, and that you will grieve, and that, you need to live in the present, not live in the past. You need to cherish those memories you love so, but you need to cling to God, cling to what you have here, and count all the things you're grateful for.
Well, and that kind of leads into my next question. If you've been really plugged into a community and you love it and you are a little bit resentful maybe about having to move on. And I know for me, that happened to me at least once where I felt very stuck in kind of comparing everything, my church, my neighborhood, my house, my friends.
Yeah.
Nothing was going to be exactly like what we'd had. So I'm sure you have come across this. How do you talk to people about getting out of that mindset and not staying stuck?
Well, that's one of the things I always tell young women when I'm speaking to them is the biggest fear I would have for you is that you stay stuck. And that's why it's important to get up, make up your bed, get dressed, and get out. If it's just walking around the block, because it's so easy mentally and emotionally to get stuck, because you can feel sorry for yourself. You can live in the what ifs. Well, what if? Well, if only. You live in the if onlys. And you really have to do not only self-care, but self-talk and say, you know what? This is the way it is. And I'm going to find something about this place that I like. I am going to plant a flower in the desert. It is an emotional being stuck. And that's when, you really need to identify your feelings, know what your feelings, know that, there are others feeling like you are. And what will it take for you to be all in? What will it take and what will help you move forward? Ask yourself those questions and get involved. Someone else feels the same way, and you can share that with one another.
Yeah. And that's so good. And honestly, I have some things about mental health this season, and I have had guests in the past. We're not talking about if you are really suffering with like depression or anxiety and you need to go get help. That is something absolutely take care of. But this is just kind of more about an attitude kind of thing, because I know that there's been places I'm like, I don't want to get to know people and I don't want to get to know this area because I don't want to be here. And that's when you just, okay, God, you've got to I need a little wake up call here. Okay.
Yeah. And you'll shut down.
Yeah.
And then I've done it. I mean, then I just shut down. Okay. This stinks. And, my husband, I never see him. And, he's married to the military. Well, guess what? You're married to him. And, this is life. And I just feel like that you need to trust God for what you don't know, for what you don't understand, for what you can't control. And it all goes back to one word: choice. You can choose every day to put a smile on your face. Now, You may not feel like putting a smile on your face, but I bet if you put a smile on your face enough, your face is going to smile. But you need to make a choice. Do you choose to let go and start over and move forward in life?
Yeah, that's so good. And it's such helpful advice. And sometimes something we don't want to hear because we would like to be validated in our misery and be told, yes, it's okay if you hate it and complain. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of online groups will devolve into that. So I think this is a better path overall, if for your own happiness, for your family's happiness, and for you to be able to move on. I think these are such important concepts, Susan. Yeah. And there was one place we lived, nobody wanted to be there. There's nothing to do here. There's nothing to do here. And I've said this before, but I had a little map back in the day. And so I was like, okay, let's see, let's exhaust everything we think there is to do in this little radius. All right, now we're going to map it out 50 miles out. What else is there to do? And it was interesting things like going strawberry picking at a field. And I got my neighbor to go with me and just things like that I would not have necessarily done. But I really had to work. I'm not saying I did it perfectly, but I would look at my 4 kids and go, I don't have the option to just shut down and be miserable, because that then bleeds over into them and spills over into how they are going to view it. And so for myself, I would look at those little faces and go, I've got to, even if I don't feel like it, I've got to muster up something.
Right. Exactly. And let me clarify. I'm not saying that you can't grieve.
Oh,
of course you grieve. Of course you grieve what you left behind. But at some point you need to get a grip, and you need to say, just like you said, okay, this is affecting my whole family. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And so, and you won't always be happy, but it's a choice you make to stand up straight and to face what you need to face each day, with just choosing, I am going to do this. I am going to get through this.
Mm-hmm. And that's very empowering, because then you don't feel like you're at the mercy of these circumstances.
Yeah. Live above your circumstances is what I love to share.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and speaking of friendships, I know you mentioned PWC, but what are some other ideas you have for making connections, and especially for somebody that's been trying and just feels like they're not getting anywhere? Maybe they're at a more remote location, or again, like a place they didn't really want to be. And so how can they look around, and what ways would you suggest for them to find friends?
Well, in addition to joining up and joining in, and in addition to getting out there, be proactive. Be proactive. If you meet somebody in the commissary, say, hey, I'm new here. Can you tell me where McDonald's is for my kids, or whatever? But be proactive and make that first initial approach. If you see somebody walking down your street, or, just make yourself ask that question, and go to a neighborhood garage sale. What a great way to meet someone. And when you're invited to places and things, you may think, I don't want to go. I just don't. But go, say yes. Let yes be your word. And it's so important. Join a church, volunteer, find a need and fill it. There's always somebody that's worse off than you are. And walk your kids to the bus stop. Don't just send them, walk them. And, talk to other mothers. Look for homes with toys outside or bicycles, and there's someone else just like you, and go for a walk or a hike. You'll meet people who you'll have that in common with. So, just remember to have a friend. You've got to be a friend. And there's real validity in that.
There is.
And it begins with you.
These old sayings, the reason they stick around is because they're true. There's some truth to them. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I had one military wife say to me, I just put a notice at everybody's door. I'm having a morning coffee. Come and join us. I'm new here. And she said she had a house full of people that were feeling the same way, but she
Exactly.
initiated that. She had a morning coffee.
Oh, I love that. I had a friend in military housing that said when she would first move in, she'd go outside every day, like when people were walking their kids back and forth to school because her kids were older, and be gardening. But she wasn't really a gardener, so she would just kind of mess around in her flower bed and just strike up conversations with people that walked past. I thought that was the cutest thing because she was like, I'm just going to put myself out there. I'm going to sit out there in a
Yeah,
chair because people will talk, and that's a great way to
absolutely.
find people. So whatever works.
Absolutely. Whatever works, but just, unpack. You have to unpack boxes. You have to unpack yourself emotionally. You have to unpack your kids. And believe it or not, you've got to unpack that man of yours because he's on a mission and, in his move. So yeah, you can, whenever you move, make friends. Just know that it takes you to start.
If you wait for other people to do it, you may be waiting for a long, long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about the Just Moved groups, the virtual groups and community, because you have quite an extensive ministry. So tell us how that all works and how people can connect.
Well, it's interesting, Jen, when I was kind of prepping for this podcast, I thought, oh my gosh, everything Jen asked is answered. And we've given the tools and equipped women through our ministry with all of these things, the emotions, the how to, the what, biblical application and practical application. And this is what our studies, they're all over the world in churches, backyards, basements, PWCs. I mean, this is the connecting point for building community. And this is why with the military, it's so vital that, that our outreach is just huge. And we equip a woman to help navigate life after a move, navigate those feelings. Our ministry is such, we have so many legs of outreach beside blogs and podcasts. We have a prayer. You can go online and send in a prayer request. We have virtual classes, virtual studies online.
Oh, nice.
We have them because there's some women that don't have a study near them. So we can put together an online study. We also have in-person studies, and Operation Hope for the uprooted military woman is sponsored by donors where it does not cost a PWC anything to offer our study. We furnish the videos where I do the teaching and books. And, it's just taking advantage of that because that is such a magnet for these women that are listening who are new and lonely and need validated and need navigating life after a move. So go, as you said, go to our website, justmove.org. If you want to email me, email reach us, REACHUS at justmove.com. And I'll get your email and we can visit. But yeah, so our ministry's grown deep and wide.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Our outreach is huge through our studies and through, we offer weekly words of encouragement that you can sign up for. And, there's so many things that we try to reach the woman when she's been uprooted.
That's wonderful. And the studies are based on your book, After the Boxes Are Unpacked.
Yes.
And it has a leader guide, I'm assuming, and you said videos.
Yes, a leader guide, videos, a study guide for the participants. And it takes a woman through how to let go and trust God and how to deal with anger and all those feelings of fear and all that. It deals with starting over with hope in parenting, marriage, friendships, identity. And then the third leg is moving forward with faith. And how do you do that?
And that is free for PWC, you said?
For the study at PWCs, we offer enough books to get a study going, a class going.
Okay.
And so, and then of course the videos, that's all at no cost. So
Oh, wonderful.
yeah. And
And then so after they do this class, like what normally happens with that group? Do they tend to kind of stay together for their
oh
studies
my
or
gosh, we've got lifelong friends that come from those groups because you meet each other at a vulnerable place in your life and you validate one another and you learn together and you realize you're not alone. And so, we just want to make it possible for as many women as possible in the military to have those studies. So yeah.
I love that. That's so
Please
wonderful,
go
Susan.
to our website, girls, and check it out. It's all about, we've got all the information you might want and how to start a study.
Yeah. Well, Susan, that's so wonderful. And I know you have so many stories. So would you tell us one of your favorite experiences with Just Moved, or a couple if you would like?
Well, I have to say my most favorite, and I know this might sound corny, but I'm being really honest. My sweet spot is with the military. And you can ask anybody in my office and they'll tell you, yep, that's her love. That's my passion. I love to speak to the military women, teach them, listen to them, pray for them, encourage them. That is my sweet spot. It's almost like, okay, my family they were all military and I'm equipped, having lived the life of a military daughter and wife, that I can minister to their hearts and understand.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's my sweet spot. My best stories come out of having military women that I've known for years and years that I've met only once, and we've stayed in touch.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, is there anything listeners who are looking to start a group should know? They just need to go to your website and connect, or do they have to go through any sort of training?
No, our facilitator's guide does all the training, and we send everything that is needed to get a study started. And they just go online. They have to fill out a form that says, I'm going to be leading the study, and this is my PWC. And, we have to have that in writing as far as their intentions that they are going to start a study. And then we just, get it done and ship it off. And I think we start a study off with, I think it's 6 books and 6, because that's a small group study, 6 books, 6 workbooks, a video series of teaching and some other teaching aids that are needed.
And how many weeks is it?
It is, 10 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
I based it on a semester of 3 months. And if it needs, and I'll tell you why, because if you shorten our study less than 10 weeks, you've lost the essence of getting to know one another and building relationships and building community. So 10 to 12 weeks is a good guideline.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe I should do this for my church. We go to church off base now, but yeah, I'm thinking there's a lot of military families.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that's done. So we have a lot of situations like that too.
Yeah.
And then we have leaders, facilitators that lead a group here in the States, and then they go to Korea or Germany and they take all the material with them and do it there. They just love seeing how it ministers to the heart of a military woman.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Well, and listeners, Susan is generously giving away 2 copies of her book after the boxes are unpacked, and we will be doing that giveaway on the Milspouse Matters Instagram. So be looking for more information about that, and I will link to that in the show notes. But before we close, Susan, is there anything else you wanted to say to those military spouses listening today?
I want to assure you that you're not alone. You're not alone. God has gone before you and prepared a place for you. And you might think, well, where and what? But be patient. He is not going to take you to the gate and say, okay, sister, you're on your own now. You've got to figure it out. He will go before you, come up behind you, and walk beside you. So be strong in knowing that.
I love that. Well, thank you, Susan, so much for joining me today and sharing all this great information with listeners.
Thank you, Jen. It's been my joy and my privilege. And y'all, I wish you could see this. My tradition is pom-poms, and that's how I encourage our military women. So I am encouraging you. I believe in you. You can do it.
Amen. You can. And if you're a military spouse out there and feeling displaced or alone, and you want to learn more about Just Move Ministry, connect and learn more at justmove.org and on social media. And don't forget the giveaway that Susan is doing of 2 copies of her book, After the Boxes Are Unpacked, on the Milspouse Matters Instagram. You can also hear some encouraging words from Susan on my other podcast, The Christian Milspouse, and that will be coming soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, military spouses, you are brave, you are strong, and you've got this. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to the Milspouse Matters podcast. You can connect with me at jen-mcdonald.com or on social media as @MilspouseMatters. You can find even more military life support with my books, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse, and Milspouse Matters, Sharing Strength Through Our Stories, as well as my other podcast, The Christian Milspouse. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening, and then share it with someone else who could use it too. Until next time, have a great week.